Hey, Friendo, Steve here.
And Larson.
And welcome back to Going in Raw, the only pro wrestling podcast you need to be listening to right here at youtube.com/Steve and Larson. Available wherever podcasts can be found. Of course, taped live at the Twitch and the YouTube. Twitch.tv/Steve and Larson. YouTube.com/Steve and Larson. On today's episode, he's back. Not better than ever. He's old.
Well, we're not talking about Bischoff.
Oh, yeah. So Vince McMahon is back in the WWE. So we're going to talk about Impact Wrestling and NXT as sort of our cool down for the day.
Yes.
Because we got a lot to talk about.
I feel like we might get a fairly cathartic call from Triple H later.
We do have a call from Triple H coming up later. He confirmed via text. No idea what that is going to entail. This might be the biggest call that you've taken from him in your career here at Going in Raw.
Are you going to be on the call? You're sitting right next to me. I don't see any reason why you shouldn't be here.
Brother, you have no idea how much
sit here and do
paperwork I have.
I don't see a pile of paperwork anywhere, to be honest with you.
No, it's in Lacey's office because she gathers it for me, she sorts it for me, and then she gets it ready. So
then why do you always have slips of paper in here? Why is it not always in Lacey's office?
Number one, you're asking a lot of questions.
There's a lot of holes in this story.
All right.
That's all I'm saying. There's a lot of holes in your story. Anyways, let's move on. People don't want to hear us bickering about paperwork or being on calls, I suppose. They want to hear about Vince being back. So let's go back to December 13th. There was a report from the Wall Street Journal. And in that report, Wall Street Journal reported that Vince had told people close to him that he was plotting a return to WWE. Well, now it's official. Vince is back. Blech. So WWE announced this morning that Vince will be returning to WWE's board. Just yesterday, Wall Street Journal had a report which outlined Vince's plan to reclaim some measure of control of the company, reporting that Vince, quote, told the company that he is electing himself and two former co-presidents and directors, Michelle Wilson and George Barrios, to the board. It continues. Mr. McMahon sent a letter to WWE's board in late December detailing his desire to return to the company he ran for 4 decades to help guide a strategic review process, according to people familiar with the matter. Mr. McMahon thinks there is a narrow window to kick off a sales process because WWE's media rights, including for Raw and SmackDown, are about to be renegotiated, according to people. Here's some more from Wall Street Journal. Quote, the board responded last month in a letter to Mr. McMahon that it was prepared to initiate a review process and would welcome working with him on it. However, it said it unanimously agreed that Mr. McMahon's return to the business wouldn't be in the shareholders' best interest, according to people familiar with the letters. He has communicated to the board that unless he has direct involvement as executive chairman from the outset of a strategic review, he won't support or approve any media rights deal or sale, the people said. So let's take a break here.
Yeah.
Vince is the largest single shareholder in WWE, and he has a 80% voting interest.
Yeah.
So he can say, I'm on board now.
He can also say, I know it. And part of the letter that we're going to talk about, that his response was, I am shareholder. I own most of them. Or I'm sorry, I'm the largest holder. And what is it, like? Is it 30%?
It's like 36% or something like that, yeah.
I have, like a third of the stock of the shares. I know what's best for shareholder, and it's me.
Yeah, I know.
So what's also interesting about this is that he brought his own brain trust back from the dead, George Barrios and Michelle Wilson.
Two people he had fired from their position, I believe, as co-CEO, to bring in Nick Khan.
Now, if I remember correctly, and maybe you can remember this too, the main crux of their firing had to do with them being staunchly pro WWE network.
Yes.
They thought it was more beneficial.
They wanted the OTT aspect of the network, yes.
To own their own streaming network as opposed to licensing it out to Peacock.
Yes.
Now, obviously, because they went off together and formed their own media agency.
It says in here
thing.
too, in Vince's. So anyways,
So he brought them back. And so to basically bolster his thing, because now he's basically taken him and George and Michelle being brought onto the board would then mean that 3 other people would be off the board.
Yes.
So these are 3, three yes Vince votes right here. Yeah. And then 2 other people voluntarily just were like, I'm out of here, including the fella that was responsible for the investigation.
Yes, into Vince's NDAs and allegations and such, yeah. So now my understanding is that there's 9 people on the board currently.
Okay, yeah.
That's what I saw this morning.
Yeah.
after all the...
And he kept Nick Khan, Stephanie McMahon, and Triple H.
Yes.
So he basically has like 6 people who are going to vote whichever way he wants to go.
Seemingly. Or possibly. So shortly after Wall Street Journal's report, Vince issued a statement confirming that he was planning on rejoining the company, stating that he, quote, has taken necessary actions to position the company to capitalize on a unique opportunity to maximize long-term value for all WWE shareholders. The actions communicated to WWE's board of directors today via written consent include the election to the board of Mr. McMahon, as well as Michelle Wilson and George Barrios, former WWE co-presidents and board members, and currently the co-founders and co-CEOs of Isos Capital Management. That's the company they got. And the requisite removal from the board of 3 directors. Mr. McMahon expects to assume the role of executive chairman of the board. Mr. McMahon's new role will enable unified decision-making through the company's upcoming media rights negotiations and a parallel full review of the company's strategic alternatives, which Mr. McMahon believes is the right course of action and in the best interest of WWE and the WWE's shareholders amidst the current dynamics in the media and entertainment industry. As Mr. McMahon has communicated to the board, he believes there is a narrow window of opportunity to create significant value for all shareholders, and that to do so, the strategic alternatives review must occur in tandem with the media rights negotiations. He also expressed to the board that he believes these 2 initiatives require Mr. McMahon's direct participation, leadership, and support as controlling shareholder. Vince also mentioned in his statement, quote, WWE has an exceptional management team in place, and I do not intend for my return to have any impact on their roles, duties, or responsibilities.
Okay, now pause there, because that is kind of important if you're trying to find the glass half full, because I'll be honest with you, man, like what we concern ourselves with here primarily is what we see on screen. And obviously for many fans out there, the number one concern is, creatively speaking, how is this going to affect the product? Triple H has been doing a much better job than Vince McMahon had been. I mean, you can try to argue the counter, but I just don't think you're paying attention if you do. So I wonder if this entire thing was, let me put it this way. If Vince wanted a fight, I don't know how much the board could have put up a fight, but if he wanted to avoid one, he could have said, listen, I'm just going to come back because we know that, for example, Endeavor has might be or anybody that is looking to buy WWE might want to only do business if Vince is around. He put himself in a position to be synonymous with professional wrestling. And you could argue that the success of these deals have been because he put himself in that position. People like to deal with him, and so they do. Maybe, and again, it's the kind of thing where you'd have to just sort of take him that he's going to actually, stick to this. Maybe he said, look, don't put up a fight. Everything stays the way it is. I'm just here to oversee sale of the deal, which is my right anyways, because I own 80% of the voting rights.
I mean, you read the letters that the board and Vince exchanged towards the end of December, and while the verbiage isn't necessarily contentious,
the subtext is.
Yeah,
it is
very much so.
It is. Well, he held the media rights deals over their heads. He says, I have to sign off on this stuff. And I'm not going to unless I'm part of the deal.
He leveraged his majority shareholder deal to get back in that respect. And I guess then the question is, we'll get to more later, if he makes himself a central aspect of these media rights / acquisition talks, is he going to try to leverage his way into a position where post-sale, post-media rights deal, he's back in charge?
That's entirely possible.
So Fightful Select heard from sources within WWE, and they were all floored by the announcement of Vince's return. Apparently nobody had any warning this was going to happen. And talent within the company were concerned that Vince could return to his duties as head of creative now that he is back in the company. PW Insider reported this morning that WWE, quote, just sent word to their employees there will be an all-hands-on-deck meeting later this afternoon commencing at 3:30 Eastern, so that started about 10 minutes ago. It's about 12:40 Pacific time. Brandon Thurston, great follow on Twitter from WrestleNomics, reported that WWE issued a new filing in conjunction with Vince's return, which stated, quote, This is Brandon Thurston summarizing it. Vince puts himself, Michelle Wilson, George Barrios on the board and removes independent directors Alan Wexler, Joanne Lyons-Dillon, and Jeffrey Speed. The filing show Vince making changes to WWE's bylaws so media rights deals and any company sales can't be made without his approval. Where it really gets interesting in this filing is that it includes the correspondence between Vince and the WWE board leading to his return, and including an email dated December 27th. Where the board pushes back against Vince's return by saying, although we welcome your participation in the launch of a strategic review process to evaluate strategic alternatives and your role in that process, we are prepared to initiate such a process and are happy to work with you to ensure that it is the best process for the company and all its shareholders. It continues. Although we welcome your participation in the launch of a strategic alternative review process, it is also our unanimous, this is the board, unanimous view that you return the company at this time while government investigations into your conduct by the U.S. Attorney's Office and SEC are still pending would not be prudent from a shareholder value perspective. This determination is based on a variety of factors, including non-public information the board has become aware of.
So repeat that one, please.
Including non-public information the board has become aware of, and the risks to the company and shareholders of placing a greater spotlight on these issues.
So am I to read this? Am I to believe reading this that there's still more shit that has not been made public that is still waiting in the wings to be made public, which is even more damning than the allegations before?
That's how I read this,
or at least greater to or equal than allegation mania.
I mean, yeah. In brief, it's there's further embarrassment heading your way, Vince.
Yeah.
The email concludes that the board has attached a draft letter agreement which stated that the board would not agree to, quote, the shareholder demand that the company file suit against you being Vince, on the conditions that you can confirm your commitment to repay all the investigation-related expenses incurred by the company, and you agree not to serve as an officer, director, or employee of the company during the pendency of the government investigation. So,
and then in an email dated December 31st, Vince responded by saying, fuck you.
Basically what it said.
He said, unless I have direct involvement and input as executive chairman from the outset, I will not be able to support or approve any media rights deals or strategic transaction. It's unfortunate that the board would seek to use this conclusion to attempt to extract an agreement from me not to return to the company. Any construct along these lines is entirely unacceptable, especially in light of the critical inflection points now facing the company, meaning, of course, the digital media rights or the media rights coming up.
Yeah, essentially what he's saying is, like, if I'm involved in this, we're at a point now where I can make the company, and possibly if the company sold, the shareholders a ton of money.
Yeah.
And overlook everything else because of that.
You're not going to strong arm me because, regardless of what more information is out there. I mean, do we have to remind people that this is a guy who's been accused of multiple sexual assaults? And besides the workplace HR nightmare that he seems to be, and the fact that since he's been gone, those workplace cultural issues have largely been taken care of.
Yep.
Like, it's everybody across the board. Every report we hear from talent, from employees, from talent, it's a much better place that he's gone.
Yep.
Now, hopefully, again, for those of us who would like to think that, there's some... This isn't a complete and total disaster. Maybe the fact that there is a spotlight on him, maybe the fact that all this shit has come out, maybe the fact that there's still some non-public information waiting in the wings, which, by the way, I don't think for a second that the Wall Street Journal report, what was it? Shane's the dossier. It wasn't a dossier.
The lockbox.
The lockbox, right?
Yeah.
The timing on all that wasn't, in my opinion, coincidental. Yeah. But you would think that maybe, if nothing else, even if Vince comes back to creative, if the creative product is crap, okay, that sucks for us fans. I just don't want him to be harassing people and treating them like shit backstage, which you would think might go away because there's such a spotlight on him. But I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, I mean,
it's his company.
Vince, at several junctures in his life, has not shown the greatest amount of self-awareness in a lot of regards. So
no,
if his attitude is, this is my company that I built, and nobody's going to take it away from me. You know, we've seen him be defiant in media appearances. We've heard of incidences where he is defiant. And if that's if he's out there looking for a fight, and he wants that fight, he will get his fight one way or the other. That's just his attitude, seemingly. So, I mean, we mentioned earlier, I guess the worst possible scenario in terms of having Vince back in control would be during negotiations for media rights, a sale, he would be able to negotiate into the deal his return to day-to-day control of the company. I would be hard-pressed to think that a broadcast partner or a prospective buyer would want the baggage of having Vince McMahon around, especially in the midst of a government investigation, especially if there's potentially more allegations that could be made public. That would be potentially a public relations nightmare for whoever bought it or, you know, purchased or licensed the TV rights. And that's not even taking into account the quality of the programming you have on the show, the morale within the corporate offices and backstage amongst talent. If Vince comes back, how many people are going to be clamoring to get out of there because they don't want to deal with his bullshit anymore?
Well, also, you know, Brandon, I was watching a bit of the post-wrestling show this morning. Thurston was on there talking with John Pollock, and he had brought up that during one of the last earnings calls, Stephanie McMahon said that during the period where Vince McMahon was going through all this, there was a pause in ad media sales, in ad sales, because of this stuff. And you know, that's where the money is. That's where the real money is. And so you're right. Like, I don't know if they would want to deal with his shit because it just looks really bad. I mean, at one point that John Pollock had brought up was, you know, Dana White was caught slapping his wife on camera at a New Year's Eve party. And, you know, as a result, the slap fight show had been pushed back a week. You know, and there's not gonna be any real accountability. Corporations aren't gonna really care unless it really affects their bottom line. Otherwise, they're like, you know, we're not here to be the morality police. We care about the bottom line, and if it doesn't affect that, we're not gonna give a shit. I mean, you see what's going on with Adidas and Kanye, and what's coming out about that stuff. They simply don't care. So if it's going to be the thing that continually shines an embarrassing light on them, and it actually affects their bottom line, then they're going to have a big problem with it. But I don't know if that's going to be a real thing or not. I don't know.
I don't know either. I mean, I guess it depends on the nature of the government investigation, additional allegations.
Dude, those big corporations do not like governments being involved in their business. And that is actually a bigger sticking point than I think any morality issues is the government being involved in an investigation of Vince McMahon. They're not going to sign off anything being brought on there. And in like on top of that, these corporations, they want control. And if you have one guy who's trying to negotiate his own power within that company, I don't know if they're going to bite on that. I mean, let's be honest, man. In my opinion, there's like one major suitor, not human suitor, corporate suitor. Yeah. And that's NBC Universal. Because they have such a long relationship with them. They're already on Peacock. They know the benefit firsthand because of Peacock of keeping WWE in-house. They can afford it. So I don't know. I mean, and if it's sort of true that, like, because I think it was probably Fightful. Maybe you can shed some light on that. But like when the last Wall Street Journal story broke about him concocting the idea to come back, like I think it was at NBC Universal, there was some pushback, like, what is going to happen here? Like, why is this happening? This is going to rock the boat. And if that wasn't reported on, I can guarantee there are people there thinking this is just everything's been smooth sailing. Vince coming back is not that.
No, it's the opposite of that. It's majorly rocking the boat. So I guess if the idea is Vince is coming back simply to facilitate a sale or digital media deal without procuring himself more power control in the process, then what's his angle here? Is it just to him?
That's a good question.
To get the final say, you know, hey, I did this. And I got us the largest deal. I made us all, rich beyond our wildest imaginations. Like what's
in my opinion, there's two possibilities here, and it plays into two. There's two distinct roads, and maybe it's a little of both. Maybe he gets them both. One is purely the business aspect of it. He truly believes that to cash out and to make the biggest deal possible, which is what he wants. He wants to double up what UFC got.
Yeah, probably.
That's what he wants. UFC got 4. He probably wants 8.
Yeah.
Right? And so that'll be his crowning achievement, to see this through to the end. Mm-hmm. He is a sentimentalist. He is a historian. And I think for him to think, oh, I created this thing. Mm-hmm. I went around territory to territory, snatching them up, getting all the talent. I put everybody out of business for me to get to this point and see it through to the end, selling the company for a massive amount of money.
Yeah.
I think that's probably intertwined with the ego aspect of things. I think he truly believes he's the guy to get it done. Mm-hmm. And on top of that, he wants to be the guy to get it done.
I don't think it's just. I think he probably thinks he's the only guy who can get it done.
Yeah. Contrary to like the evidence that we've already seen, where Nick Khan is an incredibly capable person, and probably maybe more capable than Vince McMahon to get something like this done. So I think it sort of intersects at the crossroads of ego and business.
Yeah.
I think he believes that he is the guy. I mean, whether or not, he would have any desire to run the day-to-day at this point, I don't. Maybe not. I honestly don't know. I fucking hope not.
Yeah, I hope not.
Obviously, we all hope not.
Yeah.
Because the fact that he was going in there, not remembering whether or not a certain match he'd booked a certain match the week before, like it was me doing Steve W. You do it for an hour, and then the next week, wait, did I do that? What happened last week?
Last time? Yeah.
But that was just from apathy. He's got a $1 billion TV deal.
Yeah.
He's supposed to remember the matches that he had on last week.
You'd like to think so. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in the near future. I mean, it's.
I just saw what you were looking at here, because I kind of want to talk about that too.
There's been a lot of talk on internets about who we could sell the company to. Mm-hmm. With the stock price up about 20% since the announcement of his return and his intention to potentially sell the company. It's up to like $85, $86 or something like that.
Yeah.
The valuation the company has gone up to. So it's gonna, we thought after 2022 concluded that, we were wondering, hey, how could 2023 be wilder in the world of professional wrestling? Well,
let me ask you this: why is it
6
neither
days
of us
into the year?
Why is it neither of us? We had this big predictive story drop, and neither of us were like, Vince McMahon's going to come back and take over WWE again.
I mean, it occurred to me, but I was like,
Is it because neither of us wanted it to happen?
Maybe. if we didn't mention it, talk about it, it wouldn't happen.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about this now. Although, let's get to some super chats here really quick, because we had a couple.
We did. Jose Alaguna here says this new season of Succession is wild.
Plains Drifter says Vince opens SmackDown lol. Taylor Feely says, do you think he's going to fire everybody again?
I mean, right now he is just angling to become the executive chairman of the board, head of the board. I mean, does he have the power and the votes on the board to potentially, do whatever he wants to in the executive level of WWE, including firing everybody? Probably.
Yeah.
That hasn't happened yet. And
the day is still.
Hopefully it doesn't. Yeah. Maybe at this 3:30 call, it's about a half hour in, he's like,
oh, I know.
They're having a meeting and they're saying, all right, this is happening now.
We're going to monitor that too, because we're going to talk here in a second about some CM Punk stuff.
Nasso, and apologies to get the name wrong, says, hello, friendos. Today CM Punk stated he's ready to deal with AEW. If he apologized to Hangman and comes back, what story would you put him in? So I guess that's a good segue to...
Yeah, so in the latest Wrestling Observer newsletter, the Observer himself, Dave Meltzer, says things have heated up regarding the Dax Harwood podcast and CM Punk seemingly pushing that he wants to come back and do business. Punk posted on Instagram a photo of him with FTR, as well as pushing his number 2 in merch sales and a list of the most watched YouTube videos from AEW in 2022, of which he was in many of them, including the top 2. So I'm looking at the actual article that I'm reading is from our friendos over at Wrestle Talk. Meltzer, they say, with the belief being that Tony Khan and CM Punk are now working on a contract buyout with a no compete as the sticking point. That's been a thing for a while now. Yeah. Dave Meltzer is suggesting an alternate path for negotiations, suggesting this. The unique part of the story is that dissension would likely be a benefit to Punk, as would falling business numbers, because Punk's value would be the idea he could get numbers back up during what would be a contract year. In theory, he should be okay by April or May after his tricep surgery. That would also be around the time FTR's contract expires. Meltzer continues, while there was a ton of talk about Dax Harwood's podcast within the company, the one thing that didn't seem to get around or mentioned was him saying that if there was a Mount Rushmore of tag teams, that the Young Bucks should be on it for all the things they've done in the ring and their influence on the business, in terms of, FTR maybe being a lubricant between CM Punk and the Young Bucks. Dude, obviously with CM Punk burning it down to the degree he did during the media scrum and the ensuing fight that happened afterwards.
Yeah.
It'd be easy to say, as we had for months, man, there's no way he can come back from this. But at the same time, if you look back in the history of pro wrestling, what we got?
Just saying your audio is
peeking over there?
A little bit.
In the history of pro wrestling, there have been much worse things, including guys getting stabbed with scissors.
Yeah.
That have taken place, and people still do business. I think that CM Punk and on top of that, what he's talking about with the business aspect of things, AEW's total viewership again was not great. It was like 850,000 or something like that.
Yeah.
And the demo was, I think, the lowest demo number in quite a while. Mm-hmm. And it was a really good Dynamite. It was a relaunch of a Dynamite. We had a new look.
Yep.
We had some pretty decent storylines. Things are going well in terms of creative for Dynamite. But still, they can't seem to get that viewership back close to the million mark. I mean, at this point, even NXT did pretty well, and they did like 660 or something in the overall viewership. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, if you want evidence that CM Punk, who was
Delta,
the plus Delta, if you're Tony Khan, do you sit him down and be like, "Hey, we got to figure this out"?
I mean, you make those efforts before, and I would like to think that those efforts were made before any talk of a buyout. You would think buyout talks would be last resort. Okay, this is the situation can't be resolved. Either people are unwilling to sit down and discuss it, or unable to come to some sort of compromise, or come to some sort of consensus about how to proceed. And at which point, if it's an untenable situation, that's the point you get to where you talk buyout of whatever party that you choose. In Tony Khan's case, you don't want to have in the company anymore. If none of that happened, I don't know. But yeah, you'd like to think for the betterment of business. Whatever you think about Phil, there's data to back up that he made a major impact on AEW's overall business prospects, and hence plus Delta. But I can't predict what's going to happen anymore. Over the last year, I'm completely lost. Completely lost. So
nothing.
I don't know. I mean, in predictions, I said Punk was going to wrestle this year.
Yeah.
So we'll see if that comes to fruition.
I think it, dude. It's been since September now, and if he can't even come back till April, that's a long time.
If they sat down or got on Zoom or had a conference call and they all try to talk things out, and they reached a bit of a stalemate, maybe the idea was, all right, we got time.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
He can't come back for several months, so let's everybody go their separate ways. Mm-hmm. We'll see if cooler heads prevail. Let's try this again in a few months and see if we can all work this out. And in the interim, maybe the situation is Tony Khan had the idea of a buyout in his back pocket, and it's something like, hey, if you'd rather go this route rather than wait around to see if it's going to work out, I understand. That being said, we can't have you go to WWE as soon as you're ready to go. So I don't know. It's the whole situation is a mess, and we haven't heard really necessarily from any party that they've made overt public steps to make this situation less of a mess.
You know, dude, he doesn't have to be your backstage locker room leader guy as much as he would like to think
as much as he wants to be. Yeah,
he can be the leader of his own locker room, his own private dressing room, and just look, because look, I know plenty of people out there like to hear about the backstage stuff. They like to hear, oh, he's backstage doing a lot of cool shit. But at the end of the day, let me tell you something, brother. The only thing that really matters is what we see on TV.
Yeah.
You know? And if you trot him out there for a 10-minute promo and you learn from the mistakes of the past and you sit down and say, okay, Punk, Hangman, we're going to make some money here, but let's get on the same page with what to say to each other.
Yeah.
And make sure that we don't stray from that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I feel like, you know, they're all grown-ups, you know, so we called Hangman Page an empty-headed dumb fuck. You know, maybe he's just like, hey, I want to do business. It was heated. I felt I was attacked, you know. Mm-hmm. I feel like you have done plenty in this business, Hangman Adam Page.
Yeah.
And then Hangman Adam Page can say, yeah, I'm sorry, I shot on you.
Yeah.
You know, I like Colt Cabana. He's a cool guy.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I feel like, you know, like we said, and I know it's different now than it was like in 1993 or whenever Sid stabbed Arn Anderson. It's different days now.
Yes.
But that being said, I kind of feel like nothing happened that really. And I know, you know, Alvarez had brought up, you know, literally Matt Jackson had said this is the worst, you know, the most difficult 2 months of my life.
Yeah.
But, you know, I'm sure things will be a lot more difficult if the company keeps on tanking in the ratings and they don't get that deal that they want. And somebody's got to swallow their pride and say, you know, this guy actually does bring a lot. This angle is really hot.
Yeah.
Or he can just say, you know what, for the better of the company, I don't want to have anything to do with him. But he can come back.
Here's another thing. And, you know, Dax's claim that CM Punk really didn't want anything to do with the AEW championship. If we take him at his word, and it was a thing that Tony Khan was like, hey, this is what I think is better for the company. And Punk's like, all right, fine. If it's better for the company, I'll do it. Keep the, you know, it seems, and it could just be a short-term thing, or I can just be completely off base. It seems that as of late that Tony Khan is getting away from, he's using the guys that he brought in from WWE to help get AEW guys over. And if there was any a bit of resentment about Punk getting the belt in the midst of Hangman's rise to main eventer, you could quell that by having a situation where, all right, Punk, we're not going to put the title back on you. Mm-hmm. We'll keep you involved in interesting stories. Your mere presence is probably enough to for you to still be plus Delta. Mm-hmm. You know, we'll keep you. We'll have you involved in interesting stories. We'll have you on TV. And if at a point it feels organic and right to insert you into the title picture, maybe we'll do that. But we're not going to put the belt on you strictly because we think we should, for whatever reasons, because whatever benefit putting the belt on you is probably minimal compared to just having you there.
No, I agree. I think the belt should be not even considered at this point. You know, you don't want you don't want your champion potentially doing this kind of shit again, which is always possible when you bring CM Punk back.
Yeah.
But and there's no need for it. You know, you said this last time we talked about it. There's no need to put the title on Punk. I think they probably saw it as a good idea at the time because everything was going great.
Yeah.
And he wasn't, as soon as he got the title, he was injury prone.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
So the latest on the meeting is, so Sean Ross Sapp said about 7 minutes ago that it was pushed back slightly from the start. It is now underway. Talent is not involved. Take this for what you will. WrestleVote said sources. This is 3 minutes after Sean said the meeting's underway. WrestleVote's claimed that the meeting has concluded with nothing of note taking place. Meeting was conducted by Stephanie, Nick Khan, and Frank Riddick. Business as usual was the message.
We'll keep tabs on that as we get through the rest of the show, see if there's any more information. I guess we can start talking NXT. It was kind of a weird show because it started off with two pretty fun matches. You had Carmelo Hayes and Apollo Crews, which was really, really, really good.
Oh, well, hold on. By the way,
what?
We've got a huge audience right now. We've got 1,100 on YouTube.
Wow.
If you can't, just do us a favor. Hit that thumbs up. Triple H is going to be so bummed out when he calls in at the end of the show that it'd be great if he was able to look at the likes and see 300 instead of 200.
Yeah, that'd probably make him feel a lot better.
I think it'd make him feel a lot better. Like, shockingly, like that would matter to him.
Yeah.
So if you guys can get us to 300,
because I wonder if he got his rest last night with all this going on.
Sleep is very important.
It is very important.
I feel like he probably didn't get much.
Thanks for mentioning that.
So anyways, I'm sorry. Please continue.
So a weird episode of NXT last night. It started off, I thought, pretty strong with a really good match between Apollo Crews and Carmelo Hayes, and they followed that right up with a match between Axiom and Trick Williams, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
just bang bang. The first half hour was all wrestling, and I was like, yes, this is when I feel like NXT is doing things right, when they're telling stories in the ring. I kind of feel that way about any wrestling company.
Yeah, sure.
And then we got a lot of talking for the rest of the show.
Yeah.
Some good, some not so good. But it just kind of really slowed the momentum of the episode as a whole. I don't know if having a pretty lukewarm edition of the Grayson Waller effect as your main event segment was really the way to end things.
Yeah.
That kind of felt like something more you do at the top of the second hour.
So New Year's Evil is next week, right?
Yeah, it is.
And if I'm not mistaken, Grayson Waller ended up on the shit end of the stick.
Yeah.
Against Braun Breaker. Any chance Grayson Waller comes away with that title next week?
I suppose it's possible. I mean, the whole crux of that end segment was Grayson Waller's like, yes, I'm in Braun's head. I'm going to turn him back into the guy he was before he learned how to be champion and just be a hothead.
Yeah, right.
And so Braun comes in, and every little jab that Waller throws his way, Braun's like, oh, yeah, you're right. That's cool. Yeah, no, I can't argue with that.
Yeah.
And Waller seems to get frustrated by it. He keeps needling Braun. Braun eventually kind of snaps, punches Waller, hits him with the finish, and leaves the ring. So this, based on how they've booked Braun, this isn't. If you go back to the Dolph feud, where Dolph kind of worked his way into making it a triple threat and won the title, that is Waller. Waller's shown a propensity to be really annoying. And is he going to be the guy that's going to be able to actually crack Braun to the same degree that he was more susceptible being cracked earlier in his career, I guess is the question. I mean, in that sense, it's a good opponent for Braun, because if Braun ends up beating Waller next week, then it's like, oh, Braun's overcome that last real hurdle in terms of him learning how to be a champion.
Yeah.
Or if he doesn't, if Waller walks away with the belt, then, oh, Braun's not quite ready. Now we're on the story of how is Braun going to get the title back?
Yeah.
So...
yeah, dude, I don't know. I mean, they could just debut Braun in the Rumble, you know? Like, they have not done a very great job making Braun a compelling character.
No.
And I feel like, you know, I don't even, I'll be honest with you, I'm not even sure there's been a ton of thought into, you know, this is Braun's journey, because there's just been so few twists and turns, you know? Him losing to Dolph, I thought, was kind of an interesting thing. But yeah, I don't know. I think if Waller wins next week, it simply means that Braun is going to be moving on in a couple weeks here at the Rumble, because it's time. Like, it's been a year. Like, you gotta start, you know, getting some fresh faces with your titles. What's going on?
So we
here?
have a PW Insider write-up about the all hands on deck. This is what they have listed as highlights from the meeting. They officially announced Vince was back on the board of directors. Employees were told no changes to management or the responsibilities out at the time. That Triple H, Steph, Nick Khan, Frank Riddick would all remain in their current roles. It was also pushed that the move was a positive and made to give, this is a quote, and made to give the company everything they needed to make the most of their future rights revenue sales and to gauge the market for potential sale of the company. The idea is they would be looking at potential sale offers ahead of any rights negotiations in case that would be of a greater benefit versus just selling the rights. It was also greatly emphasized that a sale may not happen, and it should not be assumed that it would. Final say would go to Vince. It was also mentioned that a possible avenue for the company would be taken private again.
Oh, God.
If it was the best outcome for shareholders.
That seems to be the thing these days. Elon Musk did the same thing with Twitter, and we see how great that's gone. Let's just dive into it. We had kicked off with Carmelo Hayes versus Apollo Crews. Can't go wrong with a match like this.
Oh, it's really good.
These guys are absolutely terrific. In the end, of course, some distraction from Trick Williams ends up with Apollo Crews basically just sort of... It really wasn't much of a distraction because Trick gets up on the apron. Apollo Crews hits him with a clothesline. So Trick's out of the way. And then he just turns to Carmelo and hits him with a move.
Yeah.
So it really didn't do much of anything in the end. Carmelo Hayes ends up getting that awesome... And he's got to find a new finish at some point because this whole
that's going to kill his tailbone.
Dropping on your tailbone. He hits the top rope leg drop to the back of Apollo Crews' head to get the win here. But right after that happens... Axiom shows up out of nowhere, takes both Mello and Trick out, and then Mello and Trick roll to the floor. Axiom hits them both a moonsault, puts the Trick back in the ring, and then they have a match.
Yeah.
We come back from commercial. They're in a match. Axiom versus Trick Williams. Axiom ends up getting the win here with his finish.
Yeah.
After the match, Trick grabs Axiom's legs. Mello blasts him from behind. Mello and Trick stomp on him a bunch. And then Apollo comes back out to make the save.
Let's take a break here because Vermillion here in Twitch chat asked, what exactly would going private means? That means that essentially they would undo all the IPO business they did several years ago, buy back.
Yeah, they'd have to buy back all the shares.
All the shares so that Vince would have all the shares in the company yet again. So he wouldn't be subject to the typical oversight one would be for a publicly held company.
Was it 2001, 2002 they went
something like
public,
that, yeah.
something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically they would just buy all the stock so that they're not a publicly traded company anymore.
Yeah.
Usually a company will go public in order to raise funds to, better the company.
Yeah, for growth or investments or stuff like that.
Yeah. So after that, the New Day give Pretty Deadly a list of a bunch of stuff that they're going to need.
It was Bossman's nightstick and The Rock's eyebrow.
Yeah.
Were the two last items they wanted from it.
Yeah. So Schism then walks in, and Gibson, who sounds a lot more like Zach Gibson these days, with his whenever he talks, he's like, you've talked to every other team other than us, and we know why. We're the biggest threat to your titles. And then Woods is like, no, we haven't talked to you guys because you look like extras from Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And Kofi's like, yeah, man, we'd have to. We thought you'd guys have to get your permission slip signed by your daddy over there, pointing to Joe Gacy. Mm-hmm. So Gacy says, there's no chain of command in Schism. From time to time, my friends turn to me for guidance, just like Woods and Big E have turned to Kofi. And Gacy says, the Schism is a real family, unlike you. And Kofi's like, whoa, hold on a second. So I thought we had a problem with Grizzled Young Vets, but it's actually you we have a problem with. So why don't you take me on tonight in a match? And Gacy's like, I'd love to beat a former WWE champion and possibly the greatest tag team champion ever.
Yeah.
Oh, this is great, right?
No, this is terrible.
This is kind of great. This is the 80s vigilante you wanted from Hard Justice.
It's so poorly done.
That's right, Hard Justice.
So it's so we see Stacks.
Oh, by the way, we're at 350 likes now.
That's amazing. Thank you.
That's going to brighten Paul's day.
You're really going to improve Paul's disposition. Absolutely. So we're in a dark room, like a single overhead light. Stacks is handcuffed to a chair. So then Dijak walks in, and there's like a little tape player / recorder. He puts the tape in and closes it.
Cassette deck.
Sorry, cassette deck, yeah. He puts it in there. So
got this from Radio Shack.
Yeah,
that's right.
no. I found the only Radio Shack still open. That's right. So Stack says, I bet you really regret how you barged into my locker room and spoke to me. And Stack says, essentially, I do what the Don tells me to do. And Dijak says, well, I have my own way of handling business. You're looking at the new face of Fear in NXT. Yeah, that's right.
He says, it's so redundant. He says, I got my own way of handling business. You want to talk about Fear in NXT? I'm the face of Fear in NXT.
And then he punches Stacks right in the guts.
Yeah.
So then Stacks tells Dijak, uncuff me and let's settle this in the ring. Just like they did in 80s action movies.
Yeah, exactly.
And Dijak says, yeah, that's right. I plan on it. This is just the beginning. And so he puts the key to the cuff on the table, takes the tape out of the tape deck, and leaves.
So he had a cameraman filming this. What was the purpose of the tape deck?
I have no idea, because was he playing music? No. Was he recording the what happened there?
That's what I thought, but he's got it on tape already. He's got it on camera. It's on his DVR.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
What's the point of the tape?
I need it right now. It's going to take too long for them to.
What's the point of the tape?
I want to listen to it.
It made no sense.
I need a Walkman. I got a Walkman, brand new Walkman, $9.99. Got it off Amazon. Works like a charm. Gonna listen to it on my speed walk. That's right.
Tape's only playing recorded at 75% speed though, so everything sounds a little slow.
I need new batteries.
It needs a new motor on the inside, but I'm not that technically adept to replace it.
That's right. I'm hard justice, not hard technological justice.
If that was the case, I'd be a member of the Geek Squad. Not.
I'm not. I kill geeks. All right. Anyways, after that,
Wasn't into it.
You know what, dude? I liked it because there weren't like really problematic undertones.
Oh, yes, I understand that, and it is more in line with the '80s vigilante.
Dude, he had a tape deck.
But it's like the least dramatic and interesting way to go about doing it.
And yet, amazing. Come on. Like, the Dijak, the hard justice emote is back. He had a tape deck. Why did he tape this conversation? I don't know.
And it's beguiling, and I don't like it.
Oh, it's great. Now listen. Tape deck. After that, we had Drew Gulak training with Chase U. But no
Andre.
Chase.
No Andre,
and
yeah.
Was Duke there in the first place?
Yeah,
he was. Okay.
Duke was there, yeah.
So, and then Hank Walker. He's there. Seth Rogen's there. Andre Chase steps in. He's not happy.
No.
He's like, what's going on here? And Duke's like, we're looking to get more training in while you're grading papers. And he says, oh, I get it. Yeah, I get that Dempsey's hurt and Gulak can't wrestle him. And Gulak doesn't believe that Dempsey's hurt. Chase says Gulak can't put him in the ring without permission.
Put his students in the ring without permission.
Yeah, he can't put those guys in the ring without my permission. And Gulak says, I want to find out if your students are too soft like Dempsey says. And Chase says, and Gulak says, mixed results. And then Duke takes exception to those comments.
Yeah, Chase gets pissed off too.
He's like, hey, what the hell were you talking about? And then Hank steps in and says, hey, Gulak didn't mean anything. You guys want to get high? And then Chase says, nobody here in Chase U is soft. This was very interesting. This little bit here. Chase says, come on, everybody, let's go. Nobody moves until Duke says, come on, guys, let's get out of here. Then everybody takes off. The little subtle How is it this is like the most detailed storyline they've got going on
This is arguably the best story in NXT right now. Then we got Dijak, yeah, that's right, versus Stax. Of course, Dijak's going after Stax' rib because he punched him in the gut once.
Yeah, he was in a chair. I put him there.
Yeah, I punched him in the gut once. Got a really powerful gut punch.
What happened to the key? Swallowed it.
Yeah, they never explain how Stax, with his hands cuffed behind a chair, was able to free himself.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because he can't use his mouth to get the key and then somehow put his it's just not possible.
I got those cuffs at Toys R Us. 1986.
You can just break them.
You just break them.
So anyways, Dijak wins with Feast Your Eyes. Looking for another one. Tony D comes to the ring to make the save. He gets on the mic and challenges Dijak to a match next week in New Year's Eve.
That's right.
That's right.
After that, we have a club goer Oro Mensah interview. He eased up on the club going stuff in this interview, sadly. He says, in 2022, I got my feet wet. In 2023, I'm diving in head first, and it all starts with a win tonight. And then Javier Bardal, Big Body Javi, steps in. It says 2023 is going to be the year of Big Body Javi. And what better way to start out the year than by releasing the Big Body Javi Christmas album? And Mackenzie's like, it's a little bit late for that, right? And Javi says, anybody can release a Christmas album during Christmas, but I'm not anybody. I'm Big Body Javi. And then he lists off some of the songs are all takes of standard Christmas holiday songs, but with Javi involved or Big Body involved.
Exactly.
So Oro says, yeah, that's kind of cringe. He says, after I'm done with you tonight, though, you're not going to be able to sing anymore.
Then we got Gigi Dolan and JC Jane come in the ring for a promo. Gigi says Toxic Attraction it was and forever will be the most dominant faction in NXT. 2023, 2022 is in the past. Now all eyes are on us. It was a long segment. Watch us push the envelope even more. JC says this year it'll be myself and Gigi calling the shots. They don't do resolutions. They do revenge.
They're distancing themselves.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
So eventually they get interrupted by Indy Hartwell. And she says, well, when Roxanne won the title, I thought that was the end of Toxic Attraction, but I don't mind finishing what she started. We need some new blood at the top of the division. That starts with me. So Cora Jade's in the crowd. She goes, oh, Indy, you're complaining again. No wonder everybody left you. You don't deserve to be champ. I do. On the other side of the PC, you got Nikita Lyons. And she says, Cora, you claim to deserve the world. All you deserve is a kick in the face. Go to someplace else in the crowd. Zoe Stark's there. And she's asking, well, Nikita's even out here. And she says Roxanne's title reign is going to be really short. Wendy Chu is elsewhere.
She's also there, yeah.
Says, Zoe, you're so angry. No one wants to see that. Elsewhere, Thea's in the crowd and
Too many
says,
people, dude.
She just says, oh, there's so many girls out here. Girl fight. So a huge brawl breaks out.
Yeah.
Alba Fire runs out to join in. She gets laid out by Isla Dawn from behind. They have their own side brawl.
Yeah.
The rest of the women's locker room empties out into the ring, and everybody brawls. Everybody's fighting. And then Roxanne Perez is on the platform.
Yeah.
And says, hold on, everybody. You don't need to fight each other because next week we're going to have a battle royal. Winner faces me at Vengeance Day. So they all listen to her promo. They all get back to fighting.
Yeah.
And then we follow Alba and Isla as they're brawling backstage. They're supposed to have a match, but for some reason the refs want to get them in the ring before they start the match, even though it's like a no DQ.
It's a New Year's resolutions match.
Extreme resolutions match. So they were trying to get them back to the ring, but they brawl a bunch first. It all ends in Alba putting Isla in a wheelbarrow, wheeling her down to ringside. They get in the ring, match starts. And in the end of this, there's a lot of good back and forth. This match was pretty decent. In the end of this, Alba puts Isla on a table that was set up ringside.
Yeah.
And Isla looks up at Alba and just has like a bit of a smile on her face. Like, all right, go ahead, do it. The idea is like Isla's trying to push Alba to be more vicious, more violent, more brutal. So then Alba hits the swanton off the top on the table. The table doesn't break. So she has to hit a gory bomb through the table and then has to put her back in the ring to get the win.
That swanton was gnarly.
It was.
Especially because that table did not break. So she just sort of skimmed off it and just landed. Oh, boy.
It looked rough.
So, yeah. I mean, I don't know where these two... Usually at this point, I'm like, where is this going to go from here? They're probably going to fight again.
I would think so.
I think that this isn't over.
Yeah,
even though you think that an Extreme Resolutions match should be a blow-off.
Yeah, I mean, based on the name of it, you think so.
Mm-hmm. Anyways, after that, we had a Grayson Waller interview. So I spent the last 10 days in Australia to manifest the inevitable. Mackenzie doesn't... And Mackenzie's like, I don't know why you're so confident. This is Braun Breaker we're talking about. He's all about smarted Braun. New Year's Evil should be a cakewalk. Braun may have the dog in him. That doesn't make him immune to the Grayson Waller effect.
And then we get a Creed Brothers Indus Share video package. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, this was really well done. I'm really pulling for Indus Share. They're not going to win, though. Bums me out because I really like them.
You never know. Brutus might eat that pin.
You think they got a shot here?
I'd like to think so.
Or like 70-30?
Yeah, probably something like that.
All right.
Then we get Oro Mensah versus Javier Bernal. Javi attacks Oro from behind during his entrance, so he has the advantage for a while, but he's looking for a powerbomb. Oro reverses that into a backdrop, gets all his offense in, hits his finisher to get the win. It was literally a match of two halves.
Yeah, it was, yeah. After that, we had Briggs, Jensen, and Fallon backstage. For some reason, Jensen's like, yeah, 2023 is going to be our year.
Well, Fallon got the bar, that's why.
She got the bar. I know, she got the bar in the match. That's good. And Briggs is like, yeah, now that we've got the bar situation fixed, no thanks to them, really. Because remember, they were like, we're going to figure something out. We're going to put our heads together. And nothing ever came.
They never did anything.
They're like, Fallon, you can go on and win the Battle Royal and win the women's title. And then Kiana steps in, and they're like, hey, what are you doing here? She's like, no, look, man, I'm just saying congratulations on the win. You got the bar. I'm going to hold up my end of the deal, and I'll see you in the Battle Royal. Meanwhile, Jensen's getting super bricked up.
Yeah. She says, I'll text you. Then we have Andre Chase versus Drew Gulak. Chase puts Drew in a figure four. Gulak gets to the bottom rope, and they get up, and Chase extends his hand as in like, hey, good job. Mm-hmm. You know, this is a good sporting match. Gulak slaps him, and this starts hitting a bunch of shots on Chase. Hits a body slam, puts on the Gulak to get the win, and Hank Walker afterwards is like, you don't have to do it like that, because he wasn't let go of the Gulak
He
after the bell rings. Yeah,
it's like a dragon sleeper type thing. He wasn't letting go. He was all jacked up too. After that, we had a Wes Lee interview. Basically said, how about this? Tony D'Angelo, Dijak, y'all are both just going on and on about stuff. How about you guys fight? I'll hang out ringside, have some popcorn, and then whoever wins that match could be number one contender.
That's right. And then we had Kofi versus Joe Gacy.
You think they're going to have Dijak's going to win that, right?
Yeah, you'd think so. Yeah, that's right.
Big push for hard justice.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right.
I'm gonna tape the entire thing with my Betacam.
There we go. There we go. Or one of those video cameras where you have the camera and then you have the recording apparatus over your shoulder.
Right back there. You see that picture of my dad?
Yep. That's the one.
That thing was so heavy, man.
I know. You got a VCR you had to carry.
You have an entire briefcase VCR.
Yep. That's what he's going to use. Then we had Kofi versus Joe Gacy. This was a pretty fun match.
Oh, man. Plane's about to take off here.
Laptop's about to take off. Kofi gets the win here, even though Schism tries to get involved. Woods was on commentary. He steps up to Grizzled Young Veterans, distracts him so Kofi can take him out with a tope. And then Gacy's looking for Uranagi. Kofi escapes that, hits Trouble in Paradise for the win.
Man, we got 400 likes now. Triple H, I think he's going to be over the moon. I think he's going to be so excited. We just got to get through the rest of NXT, and then we're going to talk about Impact for a little bit.
Yeah.
And then
we're almost done with NXT, because when we got Hank Walker and Gulak backstage, and that's when Hank was like, hey, you didn't have to hold him in the submission for so long.
You didn't have to do that. It's like, you're the fucking student. Shut up.
And then Charlie Dempsey steps in. He says, my arm's fine. Next week it's on. And then Gulak says, yeah, next week Hank Walker's going to be ready, and he's going to rip that arm out of the socket.
I'm just sort of curious for chat. How loud is that laptop?
I mean, GT Racer says Larson's laptop is on fire.
Do you want to just use my screen here for notes?
No, it's fine.
Okay, all right. So we got Pretty Deadly now. We got the Pretty Deadly segment.
Yeah.
All right. So they basically told the New Day, "Hey, we've done everything you've asked us to. This last one's impossible." And then Prince is like, we're done jumping through hoops for us. We're the best for you guys. We're the best tag team in NXT. And they're like, we're the tag champs. That says we're the best.
Yeah.
And so Pretty Deadly offers this. We're going to run the gauntlet. We're going to take on 3 teams. We're going to beat them all.
Yeah.
Can that get us a title shot? And they're like, cool.
Yeah.
Good job.
Then we had Grayson Waller effect with Braun Breaker. We talked about at the head of the show.
Fucking Grinder said it was vacuuming.
Yeah, I know. It's a very powerful laptop. And we went through it before, as Waller was trying to get Braun to lose his cool, and Braun wasn't having it till the end when Waller pretty much says Braun was an overrated champ, stole your dad's gimmick. And even then, Braun, he gets in Waller's face, says, I don't give a damn what you say. And he turns to leave. And Waller starts to talk again. Then Braun just turns around, punches him, hits him with his finish, grabs Waller's phone as Waller rolls to the floor. And then holding Waller's phone, sort of like what Logan Paul did at Crown Jewel, hits that tope out of the ring on Waller while holding Waller's phone. Because the whole idea is, Waller, you go viral, but you don't win. You know,
right? Yeah,
you go viral, you get the viral moment, but you're still going to walk out empty-handed. That's the Grayson Waller effect.
Yeah. We also had an Impact Wrestling. This was not the go home to Friday the 13th, Hard to Kill. That's going to be Thursday the 12th. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's right.
Airs on Thursdays. But they did set up a ton of matches. And I'll be honest with you, that Bully Ray segment was like the first one in this entire Bully Ray story
that you're into,
that I actually really liked.
It's because of Scott D'Amore.
Yeah, I know. It's because of Scott D'Amore. But also Bully just sitting there and Bully, responding to him, I thought was really strong stuff. And then they put him through a table.
Yeah. Yep.
Plus we had Dancing Moose.
Yeah, that was pretty solid. Kicked off with Masha versus Taylor Wilde. Deonna Purrazzo's on commentary, as this is all prelude to the number 1 contender match happening at Hard to Kill. And Masha surprisingly took the L here. So she
is headed to NXT.
Who knows? Yanks Taylor. But Taylor's got this new gimmick where like she's into the occult or something like that. She kind of yanks Taylor across the top rope and goes and talks some shit and spits at Deonna at commentary. Yeah. And that distraction was enough so that when she got back in the ring, Taylor could just roll her up to get the win. And afterwards, Masha goes over to Dave Penzer, grabs him by the collar. Security's over there to try to break it up, and then Masha hits him with a back fist and a snowplow.
Yeah, I didn't like Masha losing. I don't care what the circumstances are. I don't like it. They did such a great job building her up.
I know.
And then she takes 2 really, really hard-fought losses against Jordan Grace, and she gets rolled up here.
I know.
Come on now. What's going on here?
It's kind of lame.
Well, maybe they filmed this after, or they conceived of this after, because they got that crazy taping schedule.
Yeah.
After Scott D'Amore went through the table, he's laid out, and so somebody else took over the booking here.
I guess if you want to try to, sure.
Probably not the way it happened.
Probably not.
After that, we had a Sami Callihan promo. He says, "Every week I think I'm done with the design, but I still get jumped. The design may have killed off Eric Young, but he's the one who softened him up, but I'm the one who softened him up. Death Machine wants the design, but does the design want the Death Machine? I want an answer by the end of the night. Thumbs up, thumbs down."
Let me get a Rich Swann promo here. He says, hey, Steve Maclin, you really want that Impact title, but coming from a former champ, you're not going to get there by winning by countout. So let's have a Falls Count Anywhere match at Hard to Kill. What do you say?
Now, you'd think Maclin should win this, but it's Impact. They do weird things sometimes.
They do
have
weird
Rich
things.
Swann beat Steve Maclin, a guy that should be building up right now.
They do weird things sometimes.
Man, after that, we had X Division action. Black Taurus versus the alternative, Anthony Green. He's the best thing in wrestling. He's got, well, that's what he says.
Oh, all right.
He's got two different catchphrases. He's the alternative Anthony Green, but he's also the best thing in wrestling.
All right.
If you're the alternative, wouldn't you alter your catchphrase to be like, I'm the other best thing in wrestling?
That's what I was going to say, the other best thing.
I'm the alternative.
Whoever you think is the best thing, I'm the other.
He's workshopping. He's workshopping, seeing what's going to work.
I guess that's one point of going to Impact.
Yeah, beating Black Taurus is not part of the workshop though, because he lost. Destination Hellhole is probably my new favorite finish.
Pretty great move.
It's amazing.
It's pretty great.
This dude cranked his neck so hardcore on that pile driver.
Yeah.
Afterwards, Trey Miguel, who now is just spray paint happy. I think it's been a couple of weeks since I've seen Impact.
Same.
The holiday break, we didn't really cover Impact.
We didn't really cover it at all.
And so now Trey Miguel, his thing is prepare for landing, everybody.
There we go.
Making our powering down,
making our descent into Call with Paul.
So Trey Miguel just likes to spray paint things.
Yeah,
he spray painted his title.
Yeah,
and then he spray painted the alternative.
Yeah,
and I guess maybe he's gonna spray paint Black Taurus.
Well, that's what he did when he won the title. It was spray paint.
Oh, that's right.
So he's already done that. So that means Taurus is due for a win here.
Yeah.
So then we had Kenny King. He's in Montreal, and he walks into what is supposed to be Speedball Mike's Bailey's gym. But no Speedball. He's not there. So one of his Speedball's students say, hey, get out of here, Kenny King. Kenny laughs it off and proceeds to destroy all of Speedball's students.
Including Marvell, who's in chat right now. I'm pretty sure, because Marvell earlier said I was in this segment, I was the guy wearing all black. And I think he was the guy who got the girl chucked at him. Yeah. And then he was super kicked into slamming her.
Oh, that's amazing.
So that's Marvell right here in chat.
That's super cool.
Marvell, next time, if somebody throws a woman at you, maybe turn away or something, or try to block that kick somehow.
Yeah.
Because you inadvertently slammed her. You gave her a body slam on the floor.
Mike Bailey wasn't happy about what just happened and challenges Kenny King to a pit fight. No ropes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's knockout, submission, or ref stoppage or something.
Right, yeah. I think it's blood. It's just like blood sport.
Yeah. That should be good.
Yeah.
Then we got Jonathan Gresham versus Ernest R. Anthony. Jonathan Gresham literally twisted Ernest R. Anthony into a pretzel.
Yeah, it was pretty great.
So he somehow managed to trap both his arms and twist his leg back, and then leverage all that into a pinning combination to get the win.
Yeah.
It was something else.
Oh, he says he wasn't that guy. Okay, that's the main guy. I remember I thought he was wearing black.
Gotcha.
Anyways, you can tell your friend next time, don't slam her into the ground. I love the name Ernest R. Anthony.
It's a good name.
Very, very happy with that name. I think I put in the little scroll here, I put Ernest goes to wrestling school.
Oh.
Because his name is Ernest. Hey, what was his friend's name?
Vern.
Hey, Vern.
Hey,
Vern. I'm fighting Jonathan Gresham today. Anyways, after that, we had Tasha Steeles and Savannah backstage. Tasha's like, how are we going to get the tag titles? We keep on losing. Savannah's like, yeah, we did lose. And Tasha's like, what does that mean? And then Giselle and Jai Vidal step up. And Shaw's like, hey, I heard you want to beat the Death Dolls, but to do that, you're going to need some help. And Tasha's like, dude, you never help any of your teams. Everybody just loses when you're on there. Your teams always break up. And Shaw's like, maybe I was just teaming with the wrong people. You guys are having issues. Adding me to the team would be a positive. And Tasha's like, yeah, your math isn't adding up. Because she did this weird, double negative thing. I don't know. It was kind of confusing. Shaw says, in the numbers games, you're never going to beat the Death Dolls. If you add me and Jai, we'll be up 1. And then Evans asks, okay, well, what do you got in mind? And then they start commiserating.
Yeah, they huddle up, essentially. Yeah. Then we got a Diener promo. It says, Sammy wants to join the design, but in order to do that, you need to realize your purest form. Your identity needs to be stripped away, but that's a long, difficult, and violent process. We can start that next week when we cut your hair.
Mm-hmm.
But if you set a trap, realize you're walking into a den of vipers. In the end, you don't choose to be a part of the design. The design chooses you.
Yeah. This next part was pretty great. It was Moose. And the weird is probably like this feud is even weirder than Bray Wyatt versus LA Knight.
Yeah, in a lot of ways.
It's two like acts that are just completely opposites.
Yeah.
Joe Hendry and Moose. So Moose comes out, says, I've done a lot of bad things to be the guy in Impact at Hard to Kill. Joe Hendry gets a taste of what those bad things are. Joe just got here a few months ago. Now he walks around smiling and singing, and I understand why. He's never been through true adversity. Everything's been handed to him. The difference between me and Joe is that I've done anything and everything to get to the position I'm in now. At Hard to Kill, I'm going to be your first adversity because I'm going to take that digital media championship off your waist, wipe that stupid smile off your face. I'm going to take you to hell and back and have a lovely time doing it. This job is going to be so easy, I don't want to wait for Hard to Kill. And I learned to get a fight with Joe Hendry, all I got to do is
say his name and he appears.
And then Joe Hendry appears on stage. And he says there's nothing. That was like a really effective promo for Moose. It's very serious, very dramatic, very dangerous. But then Hendry shows up and he's like, there's nothing worse than a grumpy Moose because I'm hearing the same cry for help that I heard from before. You're talking about a hero, then a villain, then a scumbag. But that's not the real Moose. This is the real Moose. And he cuts to a video package of a really poorly put together video.
Intentionally poorly put together.
It looked bad because it was supposed to, because for comedy effect, of Moose dancing. So there's been various times in his career when he's done like a little dance here or there, and he cuts those all together, and it's just all about dancing Moose. It's a song, a music video set to the same tune as the Joe Hendry video. And so it just sort of makes fun of Moose dancing, and he's like, okay, Joe, you got me. I believe that at Hard to Kill, I'm going to stick my boot straight up your ass, and after the night is over, no one's going to believe in you. Now play my music. But instead, the truck plays the Dancing Moose video.
Then we get two video packages, a really well put together Mickie James video package, highlighting basically her entire career. This was really effective.
This was great
in terms of telling Mickey's story from the very beginning. It was really, really good. Really, really good. And then we got a Don West memorial.
This was nice too.
It was.
Yeah.
It was again really well put together. Our main event match was Matt Cardona versus Chris Sabin. Sabin gets the win here, hitting a enziguri and a cradle shock. And then our main event segment though is Bully Ray coming to ringside. He grabs a mic, puts a chair in the ring, wants to know where Josh Alexander is at. I want Josh Alexander in the ring. I'm not leaving until I have a world champion in front of me.
Instead, Scott D'Amore comes out.
Yes.
And he sort of goes on this long thing about, so he says...
Especially he's saying people deserve a second chance.
Yeah, he says, you know what, I didn't like who I was when I left this company 12 years ago. 5 years ago, they asked me to come back, and I saw it as a way to rewrite my history. And that's why I gave you a second chance.
Yeah.
Because I thought that maybe, just maybe, you were looking for an opportunity to rewrite your career. He says, but here's the thing. You didn't change. And so now I go back to my family. If Josh Alexander loses, he still goes back through that curtain, gets all the respect from all those people, goes home to his beautiful family. Even if you leave world champion, you're still a sad, pathetic, lonely man because you go to another hotel room and have to hear that creepy sound of that lock when it clicks behind you, which was a great little detail. I really like that.
It was well done.
And Bully's just sitting there the entire time, just listening. And then he says, you know what? You're wrong. Because if I win, I'm Impact champion.
Yeah.
Which is all that matters to him.
Yeah.
And then he's like, what are you going to do, Scott? You're going to slap me? You're going to slap me? Because it gets really heated.
Yeah.
And so Scott D'Amore, he takes off his jacket, and he's really thinking about it. He's basically not going to do it. And then he's like, you know what? I try to set an example here for the people in the back, but right now, I don't want to be that example. And he fucking decks.
Yeah.
Bully Ray.
He does.
Bully Ray backs up into the corner. He's like, oh, man. Well, Bully Ray doesn't attack him. The two cronies do, Skyler and Hotch. They come down there. They hold up Scott D'Amore, and then Bully Ray attacks him. They get a table out. Whoop-a.
Powerbomb through it.
Powerbomb through the table. I thought it was a really, really effective.
It was a pretty well done segment for Bully to get that a little bit more heat.
Oh, man.
Before Hard to Kill.
Heat. Yeah. Let's answer some questions before we dive into our call with Triple H, which I know everybody's very much looking forward to.
I'm interested to see how this happens too.
Absolutely. I got a lot of questions here, starting off with, and if we've addressed, so this is on the Patreon, patreon.com/Stephen Larson. We get a recap question threads for all the episodes on the Patreon. Starting with Blake Whitehouse. We've sort of gone over this, but we'll go over it again. The report says Vince just wants to be executive chair. What's the difference between that and CEO?
Executive chair is just you're the head of the board of directors. You don't have any control over the day-to-day operations of the company, which the CEO has.
It's like big picture stuff.
Yeah. Flame Inc. here, the super chat says, I will stop watching WWE until he does. I guess maybe Vince leaving says, I'm tired about all this. New Japan World, here I come.
Oh, there you go. New Japan's got good stuff, man.
Yep.
Let's see here. Ben Aberley says, do you think Vince will be back in charge of creative before Mania?
Doubtful. And maybe that's me being optimistic, but
I'd like
to
think not. I'd like to think not.
Mario Cisneros here with the super chat says, I've missed so many of the live videos due to time differences being in Australia. Hope you boys are well and hoping Grayson wins the NXT championship. His heel work has been amazing.
Yeah.
Steve's rooting for it.
Oh, absolutely. Let's see here. Luis Reza says, with Vince back on the board, do you see any non-in-ring plans changing? I mean, this is kind of in-ring. But again, him being big picture, if that is his intention. I mean, I was going to say, maybe the recruitment process would go back to being next in line types. But if he's not doing day-to-day stuff, I don't see that changing either.
Yeah, no.
I mean, if anything changes, it's going to be the deals that are made for their licensing rights.
Yep. And now, I guess the real thing is he going to flex that leverage into trying to procure himself more control post new deal?
Here's a good question, though. Wizard of Smoke says, with Vince strong-arming himself back into the business, do you think this will affect the ability of WWE to sign Sasha, Naomi, FTR? Even if Vince doesn't come back to creative, this is probably a warning sign, a red flag to people who are like, oh man, Vince was gone. I want to go back to WWE now. I don't know that's going to be the case, because at any moment he could be like,
exactly,
coming back to creative.
Exactly. Until it seems, pretty certain that Vince is gone. Yeah, anybody who has any pause or had any pause about WWE that might have thought, okay, maybe I'll consider them as a destination now that Triple H is in charge, they're going to have to think again about that.
I would think that it would take a fairly extensive period of time where it's obvious as day that Vince is not interested in heading creative, is simply there for big picture. It would have to be a while for people to be like, okay, it seems stable. He's not going to, there's no desire for him to come back to creative.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Time War says, tell me it's worth buying tickets to Money in the Bank. Yeah, man.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, even if Vince is in charge, it's always a fun show.
Yep.
Let's see here. We've already talked about that. That's hard to say. I kind of like this. Pacific Caleb. So, are you guys excited for Roman and Brock to start feuding again?
If there's more tractors involved, it might be interesting.
Tokane87 says, do you think Vince has seen the effect his absence has had on locker room morale, audience opinions, and staff in general?
Has Vince seen it?
Has he seen it? Has he read the Fightful article?
I doubt he has considered it for a millisecond.
I don't think he has either. Let's see here. Answered that already. Well, kind of. Yeah, Carl Heyman says, do you think Vince coming back will affect Mercedes Moné returning to WWE?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it will.
Yep.
David Matuszek says, since Vince is back in WWE, what would be a telltale sign that he is in charge on television? So let's say we don't get any word. We would get something from Fightful saying, Vince is,
because there would be changes in the creative structure. Yeah.
All we'd hear is this. Fightful will have a report. Vince is backstage.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it. Otherwise, he's going to be doing stuff from his office.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I like this one. Louis says, if WWE were to recreate Austin's feud with Booker where they fight in different places, like the supermarket, who would you put in and where would they fight? LA Knight and Bray Wyatt.
That's good.
And they'd fight...
at a swap meet.
Oh, that's good. I like that. At a swap meet. Let's see here. All right. So we talked about everything else. All right, man. So, just want to get you geeked up here.
I'm fine. I'm ready to go.
464 likes. I've got plenty of paperwork to go do.
Okay, so you got to step out, right? So go ahead and step out.
I'm going to step out. But I got the Zoom thing here. You're you got the.
It's going to be interesting watching you step
engine.
out when you have to walk behind me to step out.
Well, no, I got a.
There's no door over there.
Yeah, dude. There's no. I'm going to go around behind the camera over there.
That's not.
I'm going to go under. I don't know. It's all good. Here we go. All right, man. You hear that? Cat of mine.
Yeah, that's pretty loud.
Look at her little arms are on the pillow. It's so cute. All right, here we go. Hello, God.
Hi, Triple H. How you doing?
Oh, what? Hey, when's the last time? Let me ask you something, Steve.
Yeah.
When's the last time you got no sleep whatsoever?
It's probably our last 24-hour stream last year.
Oh my God, it's an absolute nightmare.
Yeah. How are you holding up?
Not good. I'll be honest with you. Have you ever been hit with a sledgehammer?
Mm-mm.
Well, I finally know what it's like. After all this, you can call it karma. Call it whatever you want to call it. After all this time. I finally know what it's like to be hit with a sledgehammer.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Triple H. We were rooting for you. We were hoping that you would have a good chance to impart your vision on WWE main roster, and hopefully you still can.
I'm not optimistic. It might be game over for the game. I'm so sleepy. I'm so tired.
Really hoping it'd be your time. Your time.
Give me my time. It's not my time. No.
Right, sorry, I thought
I've got no chance at all.
Do you just need to go take a nap?
I'm ugly crying right now. I know you can't tell because it's the Zoom call and it's just got the one picture right there. But I'm ugly crying right now. Game has tears running down his cheeks, my rosy cheeks. I've got tears running down them. Very sad right now. Very sad. I just want to pedigree everything.
Is there anything that we can do here at Going in Raw to help cheer you up?
Yeah, let's start plotting his downfall.
Whose?
Yeah, Vince's dad. Let's start plotting. How much arsenic do you have?
Wow.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, the end game. End game for Vince.
Well, I thought maybe we'd sing a song, you buy 5 more Beyblades from you, something like that.
Now, listen, this idiot, he likes to have ketchup with a steak. How about we put a little bit of arsenic in his ketchup?
Oh, my gosh.
That's right. Put it in the Heinz. Put it right there. And then he'll be all stumbly around and be like, oh, I'm feeling really bad right now, Triple H. And then I'll be like, pedigree bang.
Can I ask you something?
Yeah, question.
Does Vince like ketchup or catsup?
I don't. This is not the time. Okay, I've got tears coming down my rosy cheeks. Not happy about this right now.
All right. Is there anything else we can do short of an Agatha Christie plot?
Yes, there is. Yes, absolutely.
What's that?
Absolutely. Beyblades. I just need you to buy a whole lot of Beyblades.
I can say 5 more right now, but otherwise I got to talk.
Can you add a 0 to the end of that?
I can't do that.
Add a 0. I'm crying, ugly crying.
I'm sorry, Triple H. I'm sorry.
I'm crying. Vince, the first thing he said to me when he came back was "suck it." It made me sad because that's my catchphrase.
Did he cross chop you too? Or
He did. He does it so poorly too. It's so bad.
I can imagine. Like, where's the next box?
He's got no rhythm. Interrupt me. Don't interrupt me. Yeah, where's the next box? He's got no rhythm whatsoever. It's really disconcerting, and his dinkus was out too.
Oh my god.
Yeah, the bad culture stuff is back. It's an HR nightmare. He was doing the helicopter aid and all.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my god.
All right, Triple H, maybe the best thing is...
Don't interrupt my crying. You're making me even sadder just with your old grizzled face. It's just not appealing to me. It's so leathery.
All right, I'll let you go.
You look like a professor who discovered Atlantis. Oh, God.
Let you go and get some rest, all right? Try to have a good
I don't
week.
want to go. I want you to hug me digitally. Can you digitally hug me?
Sure.
There we go. That's a good hug. It makes me feel better.
There we go. I'll pat you on the back, too. It's going to be all right, Triple H.
That's nice. That's such a nice pat on the back right there. I just wanted to tell my stories in character. That's what I wanted to do.
We were looking forward to it.
Oh, my God. All right. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye. You were... All right.
Back.
You were
How did it go? Was he crying? Super crying?
What do you think?
Were there tears falling down his rosy cheeks?
Well, tell me what you heard.
I don't know. I was in the other room.
No, I mean, to go to the other room, you have to walk behind
I
me.
know. I went down there. You didn't see because you're not very observant.
I am very observant. Yes, he was
crying.
Yes, he was crying.
Did you try to comfort him at all?
He asked for a virtual hug, and I gave him a virtual hug and patted him on the back and told him I hope everything works out and that we're rooting for him.
Well, that's very nice of
Yeah.
you. That's good. Right on. Wow. Was it like ugly crying? Like slobbering?
I mean, this is still on Zoom.
Well, but you can hear it, though.
Face. But yeah, it sounded like ugly crying.
Oh, wow. Man. What a drag. What a drag for Triple H. Well,
well, guess we'll have to wait and see how things shake out,
Here's the thing. It's all about the game and how you play it. I feel like Triple H knows how to play the game. Just hope it's not game over.
Yeah, I know. Hopefully it still is his time.
There's always arsenic in the ketchup. You can always do that.
That's exactly what Triple H said, too.
You can always try to do that. That's a standard thing, though. You never seen that Hitchcock movie where they use arsenic in the ketchup?
No, that was not a Hitchcock movie.
Killer Eyes. You've never heard of Killer Eyes?
Is that going to be the plot for Knives Out 3?
The Hitchcock movie. I haven't seen the second one.
You haven't seen Glass Onion yet?
I hear it's lovely.
It's all right.
All right.
It's not as good as the first one.
So, everybody, that's going to do it for us today. Thanks for hanging out. We appreciate it. And then we'll be back whenever we're going to be back on Monday. Yeah. So, we'll talk to you guys. Anything else that I'm missing here?
No, I think that's it.
All right. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.